Berserk is a series that doesn't often spoon-feed its audience, and a lot of the lore and concepts at play are often kept mysterious and out of the spotlight of the actual characters and plot. I think this approach is absolutely wonderful because the most important aspects of the story are the characters, what's happening within them, their development, their goals, their dreams, and how they are perceived in an unforgiving world. Also, that allows a lot of the darker and fantastical elements of the story to retain that feeling of whimsy or horror whenever they need to. Things happen that are beyond the understanding of humans, and especially to our main characters. And this also allows us as the readers to try and figure out and piece together all of the clues that Berserk gives us as to how all of the things behind the scenes actually work. What are the origins of the God Hand members? Was Void actually the sage spoken of in Mosgus' story? How did King Geyseric's empire actually fall? And what is the correlation between the legend of the Four Angels, whom supposedly destroyed it, and the 5 God Hand members? All of these things trying to put together and discover this 1,000-year history between Geyseric's time and the current timeline. All of the things here are super fun to discuss and debate, and it's part of being a Berserk fan. While being a fan though, and speaking to hundreds of other fans over the last few years, I do find a lot of similar theories coming up again and again. Some I agree with, and some I don't. And that's totally fine. I'm always down to hear somebody out on the theories they came up with, and if it makes them enjoy the story thinking of it that particular way, I am by no means a gatekeeper that's going to try to stop you. However, there are some Berserk theories out there that I see multiple times coming up, and to this day, I cannot understand why anybody would believe them. Ones that I think are complete misunderstandings of the story at play, and really makes me just wonder how, why, what, where did you come up with that? So here I'm going to share 3 theories that I absolutely do not agree with and don't see how anybody could. Also, these aren't just one-offs. These are ones that I have seen multiple times, still to this day popping up, and even with direct evidence against them. And look, if you buy into any of these theories, I'm not making this video to pick on you. I just want to explain why I think these theories make no goddamn sense. Also, real quick, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Trying to make it to 100k subscribers by the end of the year, and I know you're going to be back here anyway for some more Berserk content, so you may as well stick around for when they pop up. I promise I won't sacrifice you. Maybe. So the first theory I'm going to talk about is a classic one. The one that says Skull Knight is Guts from the future. You would not believe the amount of times that I still see this theory floating around to this day, especially now after Chapter 362, where it basically 99.99999% confirms that Skull Knight was King Geyseric. And like, was that ever really a secret? Soon after the first appearance of Skull Knight, we are told about Geyseric's fallen empire and how he was an ancient warrior that wore a skull helmet, and Guts immediately reflects upon meeting the Skull Knight. There you go. He's called Your Majesty by Slan. His kingdom falling, giving rise to the God Hand, would obviously make him obsessed with vengeance. And, like I said, in Chapter 362, we see a point-of-view flashback of his last moments witnessing some form of an eclipse, his woman dying in his arms, and his city burning in the background. Skull Knight himself tells Guts that this was the end of a foolish king, and it is implied that dying in the Berserker armor is what made him the entity that he is now, having basically lost his humanity and becoming nothing but a vessel of vengeance. This is why Skull Knight speaks so cryptically and doesn't display emotion. He's robotic because he died in a brutal rage with a vendetta. Also, when the fuck was time travel ever a thing in Berserk? Berserk has talked about the history of its world plenty of times, but never about the future, or a possibility to travel from the future till now. If Skull Knight were Guts and came back, don't you think that he would tell Guts a little bit more than what he does? All he does is warn him that he is likely to be doomed by fate, and explains various lore like the Brand of Sacrifice and the Incarnation Ceremony. If Skull Knight were Guts, he would probably just have went and killed Griffith instead of giving himself cryptic messages that somebody like Guts would never be able to decipher to begin with. Skull Knight waited until the eclipse so that he could come face to face with the God Hand and try to fuck their day up. Also, look at the weapon that Skull Knight uses. Now look at Guts. Guts has fought with an oversized sword his entire life, since his childhood. So much of the manga focuses on how attached he is to the sword, how it works like a security blanket for him, and how it's the only thing that he knows in life. So why would he all of the sudden switch from a giant sword to the kind of sword a Skull Knight uses? And since Skull Knight died while wearing the Berserker armor, when we first see the armor, it has the skull helmet, reflecting its former wearer. When Guts dons the armor, it literally shifts, representing his inner darkness, which is more like a mad dog or a wolf-like entity. So what, at some point Guts is just going to decide he likes wearing skull helmets instead? Like, it just makes no sense. Adjacent to that, I've seen people say that Flora is Shurike from the future, and that's how she knows Skull Knight. I gotta ask, where are all these time travelers coming from? Just stop with the time travel stuff. That's not a thing. It's not Berserk. It's not how this works. The only thing close to that is how time moves differently in the astral world than it does in the physical. But none of that would explain Guts being from the future and why he all of a sudden is the Skull Knight. And it just, no. Alright, so the second theory I hate is Zod is Guts' real father. What? Like, where does this even come from? It goes back to people always wanting lineage to be such a big deal in stories. Look, in some stories it works really well. Yeah, Darth Vader is Luke's father. It's a big twist. I get it. But Berserk doesn't work like that. Not only have we never seen any evidence that an apostle could actually procreate with a human, besides the fact that Zod is a hardened warmonger that doesn't care about physical indulgences and just wants to fight, besides the fact that there has literally never been any indication in the story that this would ever be true, the thing that makes Guts special is that he's not special. I'll go into this more in the third theory point, but it discredits Guts to make him super enhanced by saying Zod's genetics are responsible for making him powerful. Look, I'm sure Zod has some crazy potent powerful sperm that's been held back for hundreds of years. He's probably on that no-fap energy, which allows him to lay waste to entire armies single-handedly, but no. From a literal look at it, Zod is just an incredibly powerful apostle that takes interest in Guts once he sees how skilled of a swordsman he is. From a story, theme, interpretation perspective, Zod is sort of like a representation of a potential outcome for Guts. In fact, both Zod and Skull Knight are. Zod, who's a brutal fighter and only cares about strength in combat, well, this would probably be very similar to how Guts would be if Guts ever became an apostle. Even Zod being Griffith's right-hand man later on in the story kind of parallels that. Skull Knight is a look at what Guts would be if he fully succumbs to the armor and his inner darkness, losing his humanity and being that pure vessel of vengeance. These characters show Guts some paths that he could potentially go on, but they are not Guts himself or related to Guts. And the final theory kind of piggybacks off the last one, which is Guts is a demon or part demon. Because look, he has pointy ears. He can't be a human. No, really, I've actually heard people say that. Yes, Guts is incredibly strong, but he is more than anyone else in the manga, representing the human struggle. That's the whole point. To want to think Guts is some demonic entity would be a disservice to the entire concept of the manga, which is retaining your humanity in a world so destructive that it would be easy to renounce it. To renounce it out of anger, out of panic, out of wanting a better world, or out of achieving your own goals above all else. Guts as a human deals with the consequences of his own actions and those around him. He suffers the traumatic repercussions of things that happen to him in life and constantly battles against his own inner darkness, brought forth by a result of that trauma. Berserk is a story about how, as a human, you can encounter incredible, earth-shattering, horrific events out of your control and still move forward in life. Still live, and by living, make the lives of others better for it. You are not your pain, you just have to learn how to manage your pain. Guts being a human and remaining that way is the entire crux of what the story is all about. Making him super enhanced genetically would ruin that. Not to mention, once again, apostles have never been shown to procreate with humans, and in the Berserk lore, all demons were once humans. They are humans who have rejected their humanity in favor of an escape or a greater power. It's another concept of Berserk that I love so much. evil and demons exist because humans buy into it and submit to such things, just as Guts dozens of times is pressured by his inner darkness to submit but pulls through. Guts' parents do not matter. He is a child left for dead and should have died, but he didn't. And time again through his life, he has found it within him to stand up and fight back. He's that indomitable will of the human spirit. And I think we are so used to stories where some ancient secret of the main character's parents is eventually revealed, or they are descendant of some ancient race of powerful beings or an alien or whatever it is. But Berserk is the opposite of that. Our villain is the one who is predestined for greatness. That's Griffith. Guts is just a guy trying to survive in this chaotic world. Guts is us. But that's my piece on it anyway. If you guys have any other crazy Berserk theories that you've heard, put them down in the comments below. I'm sure there's a lot more of wild ones out there, but these are 3 that I still see all the time, and I can't for the life of me conceive why. Anyways, put all your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Share some more theories. And don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Check out the links in the description for my Patreon and merch store if you want to help support the channel. As well, there are my various social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.